What's the right amount of money to spend on your first gravel bike? Should you go all in or start small and upgrade later? After buying dozens of bikes, I'm gonna share what I've learned and what I wish I had known when I got into cycling, because I could have saved myself a lot of money along the way. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through buying used versus new bikes, whether or not you should get a bike fit first, why I think a dual purpose gravel bike is a good idea, and I'll make some recommendations on group sets, tires, and where I feel money is best spent. And if you're looking for money well spent, today's video sponsors Ola Audios, a full-service branding agency specializing in helping you launch your products and services on your own website or on the world's largest marketplaces like Amazon. Shoot them a message at ola@olaaudios.com for a free brand analysis. My first tip when buying your first gravel bike is, whenever possible, buy used. It's kind of like buying a used car. You just get better value when you're saving 30 to 50% on a depreciating asset. Plus, if you're getting into the sport and let's say you decide you don't like it after a year, you can sell your bike without taking a huge loss. The used bike market right now is really soft and there are tons of deals out there. But first you need to know which size bike to get, because there's nothing worse than buying a bike that looks like it'll work on paper only to later find out that it's too big or too small and it's simply uncomfortable to ride. The art and science behind a bike fit goes beyond a brand size chart that you see on a website, and I think it's worth every penny. Consider it the cost of entry into the sport. I think it's also a good idea to go into a fit with a few bikes in mind. That'll allow your bike fitter to give you clear direction on frame size, stem length, bar width, crank length, and seat post offset. Once you've got your fit figured out, it's time to start looking at gravel bikes, which brings me to my third tip. Figure out what kind of gravel you want to ride. Are you going to be riding smooth, kind of like that fire road like gravel? Well, then you might consider a fast gravel bike. But if you're looking to bike pack or you want a bike with huge tire clearance, you might consider something with more slack geometry and relaxed handling. I like to think of gravel bikes on kind of a spectrum. On one end, you have a gravel bike that's almost like a road bike, except it has clearance for wider tires. And on the other end, you have a gravel bike that more closely resembles a mountain bike with massive tire clearance and more relaxed geometry. One goes very fast, but might feel a little bit squirrely. The other might be a little bit slower, but it's gonna feel more planted, especially when tackling tough terrain. My recommendation is to find a bike that is dual purpose. If you're coming from road, maybe it's something that can replace your old road bike. And if you're coming from a mountain bike, maybe it's something that can replace your old mountain bike. I personally like fast gravel bikes, so I try to find a deal on something like an Open Up, a Cervelo Aspero, or a Specialized Crux. Modern alloy and aluminum frames are really good, so don't feel like you have to jump immediately into a more expensive carbon frame. When it comes to drivetrain, well, I think you just have to keep it simple. I've tried both 1x and 2x, and for gravel and even a lot of road situations, I think 1x is the way to go. SRAM Rival Access Explorer 1x or SRAM Rival or Shimano GRX mechanical drivetrains are fantastic for your first gravel bike. Maybe a 42 chainring with a 1042 or a 1044 cassette. I think those are great starting points. And if I could go back in time knowing what I know now, I'd just go straight to 1x and kind of get one of those in-between group sets. And when it comes to wheels, don't get too caught up in wheel weights and specs at the start. Most brands offer a value wheel set. The Zip 303 Explorer S, the Envy Foundation, and the Reserve 4044s come to mind. Aim for something in that 40 to 50 millimeter depth, preferably with an internal width of 25 millimeters or more. I think that's kind of just the standard for modern wheel sets. Now, up to this point, we focused a lot on value components and saved a few dollars along the way. But now we're gonna shift our focus from value to performance, because I believe that a good set of tires is the best money spent on a bike. You can get exceptional rolling resistance, grip, and ride feel by going with a high-end tire, and it doesn't break the bank. A set of tubeless tires with orange sealed endurance sealant is without a doubt the way to go. It's what I've been riding for years. For my riding style, I really like the Specialized Pathfinder tire, the Continental Terra Speed, and the Pirelli Centenario Gravel H tires. Please, please, please do not go cheap on tires. I mean, seriously, if there's one takeaway from this video, it's that good tires are the fastest and most economical way to improve your ride experience. Last, and I'll probably get blown up in the comments for such an audacious statement, but when it comes to your first bike, go with one of the big brands or more of a local brand that a lot of people know of in your area. I'm in LA, Blackheart Bikes comes to mind. Why? Because when you start riding gravel, one of two things are going to happen. Either you're gonna dislike riding gravel and you're gonna wanna sell your gravel bike, or you're going to outgrow your first gravel bike and you're gonna sell it to buy a new one, both of which require selling your bike. What I have found is that selling a big brand bike is much easier than a smaller brand, and that's important when you're just getting started with plans to sell your starter bike in a year or two. I'd say for your first gravel bike, you should expect to spend between $1,800 and $3,500. Anything north of $3,500 and you're committing to a little bit more than you need for your first bike. For a second bike, maybe, but not for a first bike. I think it's best to start on the low end, and if you get a frame you like, you can always upgrade individual components here and there as your love for the sport grows. Now, if you like this video, I'll post links below to some of my previous gravel bike builds, as well as include links to the products mentioned. Oh, and I've got a new but familiar bike returning to the channel soon. One that might make some of you scratch your head, and others will be saying, I told you so. Anyways, thanks for watching. Until next time.